Hello, the internet. My name is Ed, and a couple of days ago, the YouTube algorithm decided to hit me with the new videos from Zach, the creator of the Chaos Galaxy trading card game. His new series is all about him making an entirely fresh trading card game from scratch, and I thought, hey, I want some of that action. Now, I haven't tried to make a homemade trading card game since I was like 12, and those weren't exactly compelling or strategic. They were basically just reskins of top trumps, or which of my friends could draw the coolest monster with the biggest attack score. Now, if I'm going to do this now, then I want to create something that's actually fun to play, with an evocative theme and an interesting depth. I'm no expert, so it'll be a lot of trial and error, and I'm new to this HTCG community, so any and all advice would be appreciated. I watched the video that ShardTCG did on good steps for making a HTCG, and James was talking about whether theme or mechanics are more important. Personally, I like it when a game's theme informs its mechanics, and the mechanics evoke the feelings of the theme, so I started by scribbling down ideas for both. I like the idea of the game being a slugfest, fast and punchy with 2 or more players exchanging blows. I've always been a sucker for giant monster movies, and if I'm rekindling my childhood with homemade trading cards, then I've got to put it through the lens of a Saturday morning cartoon. I'm thinking that each player is a huge beast, with a generic city as their battleground, and that led me to the idea of alternating actions, similar to how Star Wars Unlimited plays. It's quick and chewy and scrappy, and I think it'd feel really great in this game. I'm also a sucker for a deck building game, and I don't think I've seen that mechanic translated to TCGs at all, so I'd like to give that a try. No idea if it'll translate, but at the moment, I'm just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. The ShardTCG video also discusses win conditions, and I reckon there's like 3 big ones. Health, like in Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh!, points like in Lorcana or Chaos Galaxy, or prize cards like in Pokemon and Digimon. Now I'm going to focus on prize cards at the moment. It's less bookkeeping because all the components are right there on the tabletop, but also I like the vibe that these prize cards are actually different parts of the big monsters that are scrapping, and you're slowly breaking them down throughout the battle. So, with an idea for the theme and an idea for the mechanics, I decided to try and come up with a name. I threw some words around and mashed together different combinations to find what I liked the sound of. And going off the idea of a Saturday morning cartoon, I think I've settled on Saturday Morning Smash. SMSTCG. It's a mouthful, but it feels good to say, and I think it suits the dumb, cartoony vibe that I'm going for. I thought that a good starting point for fleshing out my idea is to come up with some factions that could be incorporated. I like the idea of 5 or 6 different options, maybe one of them being a generalist, and those cards can kind of fit into any of the others. But each one would have its own colour and its own playstyle, but all of them are centred around this core idea of the monster. So I'm thinking that the starting point of a player's deck is this creature. Let's say 5 cards, and each one is a different body part. You have a head that can bite, feet that stamp on tanks, and maybe wings that let you fly. I don't know, but they're all completely mix and match. You want a monster that has 3 heads and 2 claws, go for it. You want a monster that's made of just 5 feet? Wild choice, but go off. I'm thinking that each body part has a different health value. So if it's a bit more powerful, then maybe it's a bit more fragile. I don't know. But at the moment, I'll set it to whatever you pick can add up to like a maximum of 30 health. So like on average, they'll have like 6 health per body part. Seems like a good arbitrary number to begin with. Going back to the faction ideas, one of them should just be pure monster. It's all about buffing your core creature with action cards that deal damage and not a lot of additional chaff units to get in the way. Then, on the complete other end of the spectrum, we have another faction that is all about those chaff units, all about swarming the field with hordes of little guys. You know, soldiers and bomber planes and whatever to bring down the opponent's monster. I'm visualizing Godzilla smashing through a city. One faction is him on his own, firing his nuclear breath, contending with the other faction, which is all the military trying to stop him. Which made me think that maybe the monster that I start with for the military faction could be like a giant robot. It's a creature that they've built to contend with the monsters. I'll stick with focusing on these 2 factions for now, but some of the other loose, dumb, cartoony ideas that I threw around were aliens, wizards, pirates, even cowboys. But this deck building mechanic is really what's itching my brain, because I love it as a gameplay loop, and the idea of seeing it sing in TCG is exciting, but currently it causes a lot of issues. in a normal deck builder, there's some kind of like shared marketplace. But how do you do that in a game where each player constructs their deck privately and then brings it to the table? You can't exactly shuffle those decks together to make a market, because even on the minute chance that they've sleeved with the same sleeves, separating the players' cards at the end would be insufferable. So I guess it has to be like a private store. Like, one of the actions that you can take is blind buy the top card of your deck, but that seems swingy because you don't know what it's going to be. And it means that all the cards need to be the same cost, which seems like a nightmare. Normally, at the start of a deck builder, each player has generic buy cards, so maybe these cards are used to trigger abilities rather than purchase new cards. Maybe something to think about. But I think that getting new cards into your rotation might be a nice end to the alternating actions thing. Maybe once you're done with the things that you want to do, you discard the rest of your hand, and however many cards you discard is how many cards from the top of your deck that you get to choose from. You pick one of those to filter into your rotation, and the rest of them go to the bottom of your deck. And that way, you could do more stuff in a turn, or you could have more options for the future. Until I make some cards and try that loop, I won't know if it has any heat. So I stepped away from that, and I tried to conjure up some lore that might help create some cards. Going with that Saturday morning cartoon vibe, I like the idea that the factions are all employing monsters to fight over some MacGuffin resource, some magical crystal, which might even be the thing that generates the energy in your starting hands. Humans are abusing it, monsters want to protect the Earth, aliens are coming to invade and take it. I don't know, it seems like a good starting point though. One thing's for sure, when I'm designing this first set of monsters for each of the factions, front of my mind will be that I can see these as toy adverts for kids, like all good Saturday morning cartoons were. And that brings us to the end of the first initial ideas. I think the next steps are nailing down the playstyles of each faction, seeing if that brews any ideas, as well as creating some scrap paper cards and trying out the loop. If you have any ideas for factions, please hit me up in the comments. And like I said, I'm new to this whole HTCG community, so if you're making one too, reach out, because I'd love to see what others are creating. Thanks for joining me right here at the start of this journey. I'll see you next time.